So the boys are playing with some toys, so you might hear that noise in the background. But I wanted to go ahead and show you the ingredients that I am using to make the chocolate chip cookies. So it's all your basic ingredients. It's butter, it's sugar, flour. I'm just remembering ingredients as I say all this. This is vanilla, and I need 2 eggs. Normally, we would like the eggs to be room temperature, but I didn't have time to do that. I'm doing a double batch of these cookies because the recipe is one batch is 12 cookies, and I want to make 24. So I'm going to send quite a few of them with my in-laws, and then the rest of them will be, or we'll just keep a few for us because they're literally my husband's favorite cookies. So I found this recipe from a fellow vlogger, so I will post in the description below a link to the original recipe. Okay, so I'm right now listening or watching YouTube videos while I do this. So what we're going to do first is we're going to cream the butter, and I realized I'm quite under-prepared for this because I don't have all my tools. So I'm going to go grab those and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and I'm ready to do this. I've got all my supplies. So I'm such a messy cook, and I have a small kitchen, so everything just ends up piling up everywhere. But first, I'm going to talk about my butter. You want to get it a little bit of melted, not not boiling, but not just a little melted. I don't know what I was trying to say there. You don't want it to be completely melted because it will change the texture of your dough, and you want to make sure you have the correct texture. It's all about textures with this recipe. Okay, and since I'm doubling the recipe, let me just pull it up so I am absolutely certain I'm doing the right amount. Okay, yes, just like I thought. A cup of sugar, and I like to use the like sugar in the raw type texture. I think it's called, yeah, raw cane sugar. So this is what this is. I just every year during the holidays, I will restock on my sugar and my baking soda and my baking powder and brown sugar and chocolate chips just to make sure I have fresh ingredients for that year. Okay, so a cup of that. And then I know it's a half a cup of brown sugar. So let me go ahead and get this going. So the recipe calls for brown, light brown sugar. And salted butter, but I just use whatever I have on hand. Honestly, I don't like the cookies with salted butter. I like them better with unsalted, and I just add a little bit more salt than what the recipe calls for. So I just killed that bag of brown sugar. So, because sometimes you can't find light or brown sugar. I'm by no means an expert, so I am very behind on laundry as well. It's like the week after Christmas. Christmas being on Friday, it's been so hard. Okay, so we're going to cream those together. We're going to cream them together for quite some time. So I'm going to go ahead and start that. It's probably loud, so probably time lapse this part. Okay, so while that is creaming, I'm going to go ahead and get my flour mixture ready to go. And this is going to be, I'm using the same measuring cup, so don't judge. It calls for a cup and a half of flour for a regular recipe, but since I'm doubling it, that'll be 3 cups. So let me go ahead and do that. And the trick here, oh, I forgot I had this flour that I needed to use. So go ahead and do that. Very professional over here. I'm sure everyone knows how to make chocolate chip cookies. It's just the technique of this one is what really sets it apart. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit just to get it creamier, but it does take a while to cream your sugars together. I think. Do this. I just kind of spoon it in there, and I take the long edge of the spoon and just wipe off the excess. With this recipe, I found that I will have to add a little bit more flour. Okay, that's looking pretty good, so we're going to go ahead and leave that there. Anyway, I was talking about flour. Since we're spooning it in, I have noticed that I do need a little extra flour towards the end, so okay. I think this, yep, that is going to be the perfect cup. I'm not leveling this out because I know it's going to be fine. Just didn't want to make a mess here. Okay, now 1 more cup of sugar. Or flour. That's what I'm doing. Flour. Okay, next, after I'm done with this flour bit, I am going to add the vanilla and the eggs to this mixture over here. Okay, so flour is done. I can get that out of the way. Okay, going to add the vanilla, and a normal recipe calls for 1 teaspoon. Of course, I'm doubling it, so I'm going to do 2 teaspoons. Make sure I get right measuring thing. Oops, spoke a little bit. Like I said, we are very professional over here. Not at all. Not at all. Okay. So I'm going to set that aside because I used it for wet ingredients and I need a teaspoon later on. So, okay. So I rinse my hands because I had stuff all over them. I did wash my hands beforehand, but I, for some reason, like to please hold. Now the trick to this, and I'm going to show you guys, is that you want to just incorporate the eggs. You don't want to overbeat this part because you are going to beat them more when you add the flour. So let me show you what that looks like. This is so hard to do one-handed. There we go. All right, so we're going to count to 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That looks pretty good. Okay, so we just incorporated the egg. We didn't overbeat it. Now it's time to add the flour mixture. So what, I still have to make it. So I add the flour, or I have the flour, so I need a teaspoon of baking soda and a half a teaspoon of salt. So of course I'm doubling it, right? I keep overemphasizing that because, well, A, I have to tell myself. So I know I'm doubling it. And B, to remind you that I am doubling this recipe. Okay, here we go. I added a little extra salt since I did not use salted butter. Okay, next I'm going to whisk this around to incorporate everything together. Also, you probably could shift the flour and so on and so forth, but I don't have time for that. So I'm just going to whisk it. And leave it at that, and then I'll take my cup I used earlier to scoop and I'll add 1 to begin with. I do have this like fancy funnel thing, but I don't use it. I found it more difficult to use than helpful. So, please hold. Okay, let me rinse my hands. Probably should have done that earlier. Okay, so this recipe, or this stuff looks almost ready, but it's a little too, let me show you. When you hold it, you really want it to kind of break apart. So it's a little too wet, so I am going to add some extra flour. And now that I touch the dough, wipe off my hands. Like I said, professionals. Okay. And then I just have this like little scoop here with me that I'm just gonna, I don't know how much this is. I just add it, I eyeball it. Sorry to all the folks out there who want precise measurements. I don't have them. Just eyeball it. Okay, I'm gonna now lock it. Go ahead and mix that. Okay, it's starting to come together. I already went ahead and preheated my oven. That'll give me time to put them on the baking sheet. They don't bake very long, and it actually doesn't take very long to do this recipe, you know, when you're not filming it and so on and so forth. So, okay, I'm gonna add all my dirty dishes to the bowl here. Okay, I will need this one. And this one to measure out the chocolate chips. Okay. It calls for 3/4. That's great. It calls for 3/4 of a cup per batch for the chocolate chips, so that's a cup and a half. So I do that loosely. Sometimes I'll add a little bit more because why not? So this is looking pretty good. The rest of the part I do with my hands. I just find it easier. And I really should have measured out the chocolate chips before. Sorry, touching raw dough, but it's fine. I keep telling myself. So when I break apart the dough, that's not a good example. It stays. It doesn't kind of melt. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm explaining that the correct way. But that's how I know the dough is ready. Okay. Now onto the chocolate chips. I really hope I have a cup and a half of chocolate chips in this bag. This is my last bag. I will say I am a snob when it comes to chocolate chips. I just like Nestle Toll House. You could use chocolate chunks. Like I think Ghirardelli makes a bag of chocolate chunks. So I think even the recipe says use a mixture. I have so few left. I could just add them all, but I already feel like the rest of you do get a lot of chocolate chips. So now it's time to mix with your hand. That is what I'm doing. And I actually had some leftover dough from when I made chocolate chips for Christmas. So I will have to bake those as well for us. And some fresh chocolate chip cookies. Okay, there we have it. This is our dough. Isn't it perfect? Just perfect. You don't have to chill it or any of that nonsense. I'll grab that later. So now it's time to put them on the cookie sheet. Perfect, because we got a minute left on our preheat. Alrighty, let me get that done. Okay, so most people will probably use a spoon in this moment or even a cookie scoop, but I just like to eyeball it. So this is pretty much how big I make them and the size of my hand. And sometimes I'll make them a little bit more, and I try to make sure that they're stacked taller than they are wide. That's where they're going to get their ooey gooiness from. So I'm starting to feel like those might be a little bit too big. We'll see here. So yeah, now I'm going to, my oven is ready, so I need to hurry up and pop these in. This is why I like to use my hand for this part, because I can mess with it. I guess if you were using a cookie scoop, then you would know exactly, and it would be the same every time, but here we are, not using a cookie scoop. Okay. But yeah, I also made this recipe earlier during the pandemic. I made a bunch for some friends because why not? We're all eating our feelings anyway. Might as well be delicious homemade cookies. So, okay, those are done. Let me show you. I'm trying to get the dough up here. Yay! And they fell. Alright, pop those in the oven for 11 minutes is what I found. That works great for my oven. Okay, so I am done plating the rest of those, or getting them ready, and I have this amount of dough left. So I actually have the same amount of dough left in the refrigerator from earlier this week, or last week, so I will go ahead and make, it probably makes about 3 cookies, so I probably have about half a dozen cookies left to bake, so that'll be perfect for us, and I can send the full 2 dozen to my family. Alright, we got about 8 minutes left on the timer, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video right here, and you'll probably see me take them out of the oven and explain that process as well, because you want them to cool on the baking rack because they finish cooking on there, but without getting brown